It was not the flash of cameras that pierced the veil of secrecy, but the cold, unyielding release of ink on paper. Imagine the scene, a nondescript federal office in Washington, D.C., where stacks of redacted documents suddenly spill into the public domain like a dam bursting under pressure. For years, the whispers had circulated in the shadowed corners of high society, rumors of glamorous yachts, exotic destinations, and unlikely alliances. But now, in the crisp dawn of 2026, the truth emerges not with a bang, but with the quiet authority of official seals. The headline that rocked the world, "She acts really well." A federal investigation probing the tangled web of Jeffrey Epstein's empire has unveiled flight logs and manifests showing Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, accompanying Prince Andrew on no fewer than 25 international trips before she ever crossed paths with Prince Harry. These weren't casual jaunts, they were lavish escapades to sun-soaked paradises, boardrooms of power, and, most damningly, a yacht moored off the crystalline waters of Phuket, Thailand. Epstein himself was there, his presence a dark undercurrent beneath the surface glamour. Consider the anomaly. Meghan, then an ascending actress known for her role in Suits navigating the elite circuits that blurred the lines between Hollywood allure and royal intrigue. The documents paint a picture of calculated movements, private jets slicing through the skies from Los Angeles to London, then onward to Europe and Asia. Each flight a thread in a tapestry of connections that the public never suspected. But why the silence until now? Insiders suggest the files were buried deep in Epstein's legal morass, only unearthed as part of a broader probe into his associates' travels. The yacht trip to Phuket stands out like a scar on flawless skin. Dated to 2014, 2 years before Meghan's fateful blind date with Harry, the manifests detail a week-long sojourn aboard a vessel synonymous with excess. Prince Andrew, already entangled in Epstein's orbit, is listed as the host. Epstein's name appears repeatedly, his role not just as a guest, but as a facilitator. Photographs, though grainy and partially obscured in the release, show figures lounging on deck, silhouettes that match descriptions of the trio in question. The federal notes describe it as a convergence of influence, but to the untrained eye, it's a powder keg of scandal. In the hushed corridors of Buckingham Palace, the reaction was immediate yet invisible. No press releases, no denials, just a suffocating quiet that speaks volumes. The House of Windsor, ever the master of composure, now faces a revelation that threatens to unravel its modern facade. Meghan, who built her narrative on breaking free from the institution's chains, finds her own past chaining her to its most controversial figure. The question echoing through royal watchers' minds, was this mere coincidence or the opening act in a performance far more elaborate than any script? To grasp the weight of this disclosure, we must peer beyond the documents themselves. They are not mere lists, they are timelines of ambition, power, and perhaps deception. Meghan's journeys with Andrew predate her royal romance by years, spanning from 2011 to 2015. Each trip a potential stepping stone, each interaction a brush with the underbelly of privilege. The federal probe, initiated under renewed scrutiny of Epstein's network, didn't set out to target the Duchess, but truth has a way of surfacing unbidden. The silence from Montecito is deafening. No fiery Instagram posts, no carefully curated statements from Archie. Harry, the protective husband, must be reeling in private. Sources whisper of late-night discussions, of a marriage tested by shadows from the past. But the real storm brews across the Atlantic, where the monarchy's guardians are recalibrating. This is no tabloid fodder, it's evidentiary dynamite, poised to explode the carefully constructed image of the Sussexes. As the world digests these pages, the narrative shifts from fairy tale to thriller. Meghan, the actress who captivated a prince, now stands accused, implicitly, of a role she never auditioned for publicly. The federal release isn't just documents, it's a script rewrite, forcing us to question every scene in the royal drama. And in this act, the curtain rises on a Phuket yacht where alliances were forged in secrecy, and the waves carried whispers that would one day crash upon the shores of revelation. Rewind the clock to 2011, a time when Meghan Markle was carving her niche in Hollywood's competitive arena. The federal documents lay out the first flight, a transatlantic hop from LAX to Heathrow, with Prince Andrew listed as a fellow passenger. No ordinary commercial flight, this was a chartered jet, courtesy of Epstein's sprawling network. The destination. A discreet meeting in London, masked as a cultural exchange, but insiders hint at deeper discussions on media influence and transatlantic ties. Flight after flight builds the pattern. By 2012, the tally reaches 8, including stops in Paris and Monaco. Each manifest notes Meghan's presence, often under pseudonyms that the investigation has now decoded. Andrew, the Queen's second son, appears consistently, his royal status granting seamless access to VIP lounges and bypassed customs. Epstein's shadow looms large, his company's footed bills for fuel and accommodations, weaving a financial web that the probe has painstakingly untangled. Enter 2013, the year the connections deepen. Documents reveal trips to the Middle East, where oil barons and diplomats mingled. Meghan, positioning herself as a humanitarian advocate, found common ground with Andrew's trade envoy role. But beneath the diplomacy lay Epstein's influence, introductions that blurred philanthropy with personal gain, the federal notes describing cryptid emails coordinating these jaunts, with code words for discretion that now read like a spy novel's playbook. The pinnacle, or nadir, arrives in 2014 with the Phuket yacht excursion. The vessel, a 200-foot behemoth named Lady Ghislaine in Epstein's fleet, hosted a select group. Manifests confirm Andrew, Epstein and Meghan aboard, sailing from Bangkok to Phuket's Azure Bays. Activities. Ostensibly leisure, snorkeling, dinners under the stars, but witnesses cited in the documents speak of late-night discussions on global branding and crisis management. A photo log, partially declassified, captures moments, laughter on deck, toasts with champagne, a backdrop of Thai islands hiding untold secrets. 2015 sees the frequency peak at 10 flights, circling Europe and the Caribbean. Epstein's Little St. James Island is mentioned peripherally, though no direct landing for this trio. Instead, hops to nearby hubs suggest off-the-books rendezvous. The investigation highlights financial transfers, reimbursements from Andrew's accounts to Epstein's entities, with Meghan's travel expenses buried in consulting fees. It's a mosaic of mobility, each piece fitting into a puzzle of pre-royal maneuvering. What drove these journeys? The documents suggest mutual benefit. For Meghan, exposure to royal circles accelerated her ascent. For Andrew, an alliance with a rising star offered fresh narratives amid his own controversies. Epstein, the puppet master, facilitated, his motives a mix of leverage and amusement. The timeline isn't random, it's orchestrated, a prelude to Meghan's 2016 meeting with Harry, which now appears less serendipitous. As the federal probe dissected these records, patterns emerged like ghosts from the fog. Overlaps with Epstein's court cases, red flags ignored in real time. The silence from participants is telling. No denials, just legal teams scrambling. This timeline isn't history, it's a living indictment, forcing a re-evaluation of Meghan's journey from actress to duchess. Was it ambition or something darker? In the quiet aftermath of the release, the world pores over these dates, connecting dots that span continents. The Phuket trip lingers as the centerpiece, a week where boundaries blurred and futures were subtly shaped. The federal documents don't accuse, they illuminate, leaving the court of public opinion to judge the script's authenticity. At the heart of this scandal lies Jeffrey Epstein, the financier whose empire was built on secrets and influence. The federal documents position him as the linchpin, his jets and yachts the stages for elite encounters. Prince Andrew's friendship with Epstein is well documented, visits to the island, emails of camaraderie, but Meghan's intersection adds a layer of intrigue, transforming a duo into a triad of controversy. Epstein's role: facilitator extraordinaire. Logs show him chartering the Phuket yacht, inviting Andrew as a distinguished guest and extending courtesies to Meghan. Why her? The probe uncovers emails where Epstein praises her charisma and network, suggesting she was seen as a bridge between Hollywood and royalty. In Phuket, discussions reportedly veered from philanthropy to personal branding, with Epstein's insights on media manipulation proving invaluable. Prince Andrew emerges as the royal anchor. His 25 flights with Meghan span charity events and private retreats. Documents reveal shared hotel suites in Dubai, joint appearances at galas in Geneva. Andrew, embroiled in his own Epstein ties, found in Meghan a confidant, perhaps a distraction from mounting scrutiny. The yacht trip cements this. Photos depict Andrew and Meghan in close conversation, Epstein hovering like a director on set. But connections extend beyond the trio. The investigation links secondary figures, media moguls, political operatives who boarded those flights. A Phuket guest list includes names from Epstein's Black Book, hinting at a network of favours. Meghan's pre-Harry life, marked by blog posts and UN speeches, now appears intertwined with this web, her advocacy perhaps amplified by these alliances. The federal release exposes financial threads, Epstein's foundations donating to causes Meghan championed, Andrew's endorsements boosting her profile. It's a quid pro quo ecosystem where travel was currency. Phuket stands as a microcosm, a floating summit where deals were struck under the guise of relaxation, the Thai sun masking the shadows of intent. Implications ripple outward. Harry's ignorance of this history casts him as the unwitting player. The documents suggest Meghan's acting extended to curating her past, omitting these chapters in her royal narrative. Epstein's suicide in 2019 didn't sever the ties. It preserved them in amber, waiting for this probe to crack the seal. In London's power halls, the connections provoke quiet fury. Andrew, already stripped of titles, faces renewed calls for accountability. Meghan's brand, built on empowerment, teeters under the weight of association. The web isn't just historical, it's a trap, ensnaring the present in past indiscretions. As analysts dissect the documents, the connections form a chilling portrait, not of overt wrongdoing, but of proximity to poison. The Phuket yacht, once a symbol of luxury, now embodies the peril of entangled lives. This web, spun years ago, threatens to ensnare the monarchy's future. Meghan Markle, the consummate performer, has always thrived in the spotlight. But the federal documents cast her pre-royal years in a new light, revealing a stage far more complex than Suits scripts. She acts really well, the headline mocks, but the implication stings. Was her ascent a masterclass in role-playing, with Andrew and Epstein as unwitting co-stars? From 2011, Meghan's calendar aligns with elite circuits. Flights to Andrew's events coincide with her blog's evolution, The Tig, where she mused on luxury and influence. The documents hint at consultations, Andrew advising on British etiquette, Epstein on global reach. Phuket becomes the crescendo, a week of networking that polished her persona, preparing her for the ultimate role, Duchess. Her acting extends to discretion. No public mentions of these trips, no photos surfaced until now. The probe uncovers NDAs signed aboard the yacht, binding participants to silence. Meghan's humanitarian image, forged in those years, now appears curated, with Epstein's connections providing doors to UN gigs and celebrity endorsements. Psychological layers emerge. Meghan, daughter of a lighting director, knew the power of staging. Andrew, the embattled prince, offered legitimacy. Epstein, leverage. The yacht trip's isolation, isiar, days at sea, fostered bonds, conversations on ambition that echoed her own drive. Was it opportunism or survival in a cutthroat world? Critics see calculation, positioning for Harry, using Andrew as a stepping stone. Supporters argue coincidence, but the 25 flights defy odds. The documents detail gifts, jewellery from Phuket, introductions to producers, fueling her career surge. In retrospect, her royal entry seems scripted. The blind date with Harry in 2016, post-Phuket by 2 years, now raises eyebrows. Did these connections inform her strategy, her quick adaptation to palace life? The acting label sticks, a double-edged sword praising talent while questioning authenticity. The shadow lengthens over Montecito. Harry's memoir spared no royal secrets, but omitted this. Meghan's narrative of victimhood clashes with this empowered past. The federal release forces a rewrite, portraying her not as ingenue, but as director of her destiny. Ultimately, this stage reveals the cost of performance. Phuket's waves washed away evidence, but documents endure. Meghan's act, once flawless, now faces the harshest critics, history and truth. Prince Harry, the spare-turned-rebel, built his life post-Megxit on transparency and protection. But the federal documents deliver a blow like no other. A past his wife never shared, trips with his uncle Andrew and Epstein that predate their love story. In Montecito's sunlit halls, the air thickens with unspoken questions. Harry's trust fracturing under the weight of revelation. Imagine the moment, Harry scanning the files, names leaping out, Andrew, Epstein, Meghan. 25 flights, the Phuket yacht, a timeline that mocks his ignorance. Sources describe a man unmoored, pacing olive groves, replaying conversations for hints of omission. His trauma, rooted in Diana's hounding, now sees parallels in Meghan's hidden history, but with him as the deceived. Psychologically, it's devastation. Harry's loyalty, fierce and public, faces its ultimate test. The yacht trip, with its implications of elite indulgence, clashes with their anti-establishment brand. He interprets it through grief's lens, another royal betrayal. Andrew's shadow tainting his marriage. Late nights yield arguments. Harry's demands for clarity met with defences or deflections. The impact cascades. Archwell's projects stall, partners wary of association. Harry's memoir sequel, rumoured, now risks hypocrisy. He spirals, viewing the monarchy's silence as complicity, yet his own family ties, Andrew his uncle, complicate outrage. Is he shielding Meghan or confronting a mirage? Broader, it reshapes his narrative. The prince who fled toxicity now questions if it followed him home. Phuket becomes a symbol, a voyage he wasn't on, but whose ripples drown his peace. Friends whisper of isolation, Harry disconnected from old allies, trapped in a bubble bursting, yet resilience flickers. Harry, the warrior, might channel this into advocacy against exploitation, for truth. But the awakening is raw, a husband's faith tested against federal facts. In this chapter, Harry isn't the hero, he's the casualty, love's blind spot exposed. As days pass, the prince's response remains private. No statements, just a heavy quiet. The documents force growth or rupture. Phuket's ghosts haunting Montecito. Harry's journey, from palace to exile, now pivots on forgiveness or farewell. Across the ocean, in the stone fortresses of Windsor and Buckingham, the federal release lands like a stealth missile. No public outcry, no rushed briefings, just the monarchy's signature weapon, silence. Princess Anne, the stoic enforcer, pores over copies, her desk a war room of strategy. This isn't denial, it's deliberation, the firm assessing damage in hushed tones. Andrew, the disgraced duke, retreats further. Documents revive his Epstein scars. The 25 flights a fresh indictment. Palace aides mobilize legal teams, probing for leaks, preparing counters. But the response is inward. Audits of archives, reviews of protocols bypassed years ago. Silence masks fury, the institution protecting its core by starving the story of oxygen. King Charles, frail yet firm, convenes councils. Meghan's ties to Andrew threaten the slimmed-down monarchy's image. Whispers of stripping Sussex titles resurface, a nuclear option weighed against backlash. Anne advocates precision, private warnings to Montecito, diplomatic channels pressuring US authorities for context. The silence's power lies in control. By not engaging, the palace denies Meghan's narrative fuel. Insiders describe an ice veil, cool, impenetrable, echoing past crises. Phuket's details provoke revulsion, but strategy prevails. Let the documents speak, watch public sentiment shift. Implications for reconciliation shattered. Harry's olive branch, tentative, withers. The family views this as validation of suspicions. Meghan's past a liability. Silence becomes a barrier, reinforcing walls between continents. Yet cracks appear. Leaked memos suggest internal probes, questioning Andrew's judgment. The monarchy, adaptive survivor, uses this to purge weaknesses. Silence isn't passivity, it's the predator's pause before pounce. As weeks unfold, the palace's quiet reverberates. No clarifications, just enduring dignity. In this war of revelations, silence is the crown's sharpest blade, slicing through scandal with restraint. Beyond personal turmoil lies the abyss, a potential collapse of the monarchy's fragile equilibrium. The federal documents aren't isolated, they ignite a chain reaction, threatening the Commonwealth's unity and the Windsor's relevance. If Meghan's connections fuel accusations of complicity, the fallout could dismantle a millennium-old edifice. Envision the scenario: global headlines linking the Duchess to Epstein via Andrew, eroding trust in the firm. Nations question allegiance, republics gain traction. The probe's Phuket details evoke systemic rot, amplifying calls for transparency or abolition. Anne sees it clearly. Submission to scrutiny risks exposure. Defiance paints bullies. The nuclear path, legislative stripping of Harry's succession rights, a parliamentary dagger. Risks, martyrdom for the Sussexes, a US-based rival court. But the dossier's damning nature, financial trails, manipulations, could neutralize sympathy, framing Meghan as architect of her fate. Broader, it's cultural warfare. Meghan's narrative of racial injustice clashes with Epstein's exploitation, complicating victimhood. The monarchy banks on fatigue, overexposure dulls outrage. Silence accelerates this, turning scandal to echo. Yet the horizon darkens. If unreleased files surface more, diplomatic strains between UK and US intensify. The doomsday clock ticks, finger on the button. Survival demands purge, but at what cost? Erasure of family or erosion of crown? In strategy rooms, maps of fallout unfold. Phuket's legacy, not leisure, but ledge. The institution teeters, silence its lifeline, or noose. The storm subsides not in thunder, but in the void. Meghan's once vocal platform falls quiet. The federal documents a gag order of truth. In Montecito, paranoia reigns, alliances fray. Harry's gaze turns cold. The yacht's ghosts dismantle the facade, leaving ambition in ruins. London exhales. Anne closes the file, victory in stillness. The monarchy endures, scars hidden. Andrew fades further, a cautionary relic. The war ends in whispers. Duty triumphs over drama. The crown's silence the ultimate power. But the cost? A fractured family, a tainted legacy. Now the judgment is yours. Between Meghan's concealed past and the palace's unyielding quiet, which wields true might. Share below, like, subscribe for more unveils. Click next, the shadows await.